Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Saints Podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Victoria.
And
okay, so if we're being honest, we just got done talking about something really stupid that we're not going to talk about on the podcast, but
we'd have to bleep it out.
I feel like there's an underlying laughter in our voice.
There is.
And so, anyways, if we
Smiling
ever...
is good. Laughing is good.
If we ever roll any BTS, then we'll show you guys the off-mic banter.
I don't think that conversation would
No.
would bode well. Politics don't belong here.
No, they don't. Not on this podcast.
How's your day?
Great. Got up at 5 a.m. Went to the gym.
Sounds
I would
terrible.
love to sound like the kind of person that makes a habit of getting up that early and living this healthy gym lifestyle. But no, this was something I'm trying. And I already fell back asleep when I got home.
I replied to emails at 5:20.
Great. We are crushing it.
Then went back to sleep.
Someday, maybe we'll be those people. The older you get,
that is very true.
The earlier you seem to wake up.
But I think that's because you have more on your plate that you need the actual time to get it done.
Right.
So, yeah. Full plates.
Yeah.
Fun times. Today we're going to talk about something that goes along with that in what we're kind of living through. A lot of years of prayer and asking God, please increase, please trust me more, all those things. What do you do when he does it? Was that a good intro to the topic?
Sure. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about when prayers finally pay off. And I guess it can be interesting because once you've lived through a season of lack, whether it's in finance or work or relationships, or, you know, it could be a physical lack or an emotional lack or relational lack, whatever. When you've gone through a season of that, it can be really hard to live on the other side when things finally start bearing fruit, or when things are finally like you're seeing them in your life, or the prayer has been answered, or the dream has been realized, or whatever that is. And now what do I do with it? Because I don't want to keep mentally living in this place where I'm constantly waiting for the next thing to happen, right?
Yeah.
I want to sit and I want to enjoy what is actually in my hands.
Right.
So yeah, it can be, you know, there's like probably some crazy psychology that goes along with that of expectation and met expectations, and how do you react to that when it happens?
Yeah. Once God starts answering your prayers and you're trusted with more, your plate is heavier and you have to steward that well. It doesn't mean God answers your prayers and your plate gets lighter and your bank account gets bigger. It doesn't mean you have what you've asked for and have been praying for and trusting for, and you work less.
Yeah, and I think that some of this can get dicey in the way that we talk about it, right? Like theologically, I think that we have this idea of God that like him answering prayers is a checklist that we now get to tick the boxes on.
Right.
And that is rarely what answered prayers actually look like. I would be honest in saying that this season for us, we've had to actually go, oh, wait, we prayed for this, because the way that we prayed for it was not this.
No.
Right? The way that we prayed for things to come to fruit in our life, the way that we expected the roles that we're carrying or walking in to be was not like this. So it's not the way that we prayed for it to happen. And
no.
So the statement of like, once God starts answering your prayers, well, yes, but then there's also the reality of like, God is consistently answering prayers, but it's probably not in the way that you are praying for them. And
we have this mindset of this is how it's going to work out and this is how it's going to go. And God doesn't really work that way.
Right.
He will answer your prayers, and he does answer prayers, but it's going to go down a path that there are lessons you need to learn. There are skills you need to learn. There are timing things and patience you need to learn. I feel like every single time that we go through something, we learn a deeper patience, which is growing a deeper faith and a deeper trust to live that open-handed, surrendered life. And we can say, Jesus, you have my all. But the reality of that, when we sing those worship lyrics, is be careful what you worship. Be careful what you say in worship, because God will do it, and he will answer those prayers whether you know you're exclaiming that or not. But also, as he answers prayers and takes you down a different path and checks boxes off your list, there are more check boxes that come along with that, because he trusts you to do those things and expects you to do those things.
It's so interesting. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you'll know that we read the Bible together as a family, and it's not every day, it's most days of the week, and we try our best and all those things, but we've really taken our time in Exodus. And not only have we taken our time, but it's also long. And so I'm thinking now about, like, we've talked about the creativity and the spirit of skill and all the things like that. But, and I feel like this maybe is a very like churchy thing, like you'll hear from the pulpit sometimes or whatever. But when God answered the Israelites' prayer for freedom from Egypt, he answered it not in the way that they expected. They didn't just get to walk through the gate, right? They actually had to like run for their life out of the gate. But they got free. They're crossing seas. Things are happening, and they're consistently upset with God about the way that he's answering that prayer. And obviously this is the whole book of Exodus, so we won't get into the details of it all, but just we're reading the whole book and we're going, oh my word, I can't believe they're having this conversation again. I can't believe once again they're mad because the food isn't what they want it to be, and the water isn't coming at the time that they want it to come, and Moses is over here having to break rocks apart to get water out of them. And God the whole time is going, why are you still upset with me?
Numbers is so wild how it feels like
Numbers.
complaint.
I said Exodus. We're in Numbers now.
Well, but it does go throughout Exodus.
But it's like God's going, I answered your prayer and you're mad at how I answered it. And I think that it's an easy trap for us to fall into as humans when we're sitting there still praying for things that are actually present in our lives, but we're just not realizing it because it's not what we thought that it would be. And it's kind of scary, I think, to think that like God's presence, his gifts, his blessings could be sitting right in front of me and in my lap, and I not even recognize that it's there.
I full on have complained through different seasons about, God, this is too much. God, this is not fair. God, this isn't what I wanted. All of these things. And it's a big, I think that's been probably a year or more since those types of thoughts. But I still, when I have a very full day, am like, how am I going to accomplish this? And I have been very mindful of, I don't want to complain about what is on my plate, because we're not talking, we prayed about these things, we asked for these things, we believed that this was going to be our life. We're talking like, what, 5, 6, 7 years of prayer?
Probably our whole marriage, but like, that's the thing, right? It
doesn't
stop.
Yeah.
Like, and I know we have like notes on this and all of the things, but like for us to sit here and organically just kind of talk about it doesn't stop. Your prayers change, but they don't stop. And I think that that's another trap that people fall into is once they realize that a prayer has been answered, it can be really easy to just sit there and stop moving or sit there in that and say, okay, I have arrived.
Yep.
And we expect this answered prayer moment to be like this plateau where things are finally moving like smoothly and the work is over and the wait is over and all of that. But it's not that at all. In fact, I want God to trust me more now with what he's blessed me with. So I need to consistently ask him, is this still the thing?
Right.
Okay, you answered this prayer. You've given this to me. Is this still the thing that you want me to be doing? And at times the answer has been no.
Yeah.
When I've made that list of everything on my plate and said, okay, God, do you still want me doing all of
Right.
these things? And sometimes he said no. And so I have to let go of a few things. Or sometimes it's been yes,
Right.
but we're moving toward a goal,
Right.
right? So the thing that's in your hand now is not, it's not going to look this way in a year. It's going to be different.
Sometimes those things that you're working towards aren't even for you.
Absolutely.
It's to impact other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be very hard. I think that something to know is sometimes we've gotten way off
We've
of our
gotten
notes, but
so off.
I think this is really, I think it's better to have
Mm-hmm.
organic conversation than we can get back to the notes. But sometimes the things that you ask for, you're asking because God has planted a seed in you.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that you're going to do is not for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be for an impact of someone else. And for people new to Christianity, people new to faith, God doesn't require hard things like that from the get go. Like, these are things that, like, as you dig deeper in faith, God will trust you with more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, hey, part the Red Sea, day one of being a Christian. Like, that's not how it works. But as you ask for bigger things, as you ask for deeper things, as you ask for, give me clarity in my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
God will show you. But the purpose in asking for that and understanding that is you need wisdom. You need wisdom from God. He requires sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that some days this doesn't make any sense. I don't see how this benefits me, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not about you.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Mm-hmm. When you're harvesting something, though, it's not. I mean, when you've planted seeds and now you're seeing harvest in that, it requires more from you, and
Yeah.
it requires you to lean on community. And a lot of times, obviously the Bible is very agricultural, but they weren't just getting this food for their families. A lot of
Yeah.
times they were taking it into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
They were creating income for
Yep.
their families and for their communities and for their households. And so
Their family may not have been eating off of the fruits of their labor.
right.
They were eating the scraps and they were selling.
Yeah.
That just hit me. That's
so much, right, to that conversation of what are you doing? Who are you doing it for? What is God actually requiring of you
mm-hmm.
for it? Like, so many things. And it looks different for everyone, and it looks different in every season. If you haven't noticed yet, this is probably a really faith-driven conversation in this episode.
We haven't done one of these in a while.
No, we haven't. We try to, go back and forth, but harvest is harder than planting. And when you finally reap the benefit of what you've planted, you have to steward it. You have to manage the abundance that you've been given. And that's what it looks like. It looks like management skills now, right?
Yeah.
It looks like I have to steward this well. I have to, okay, I finally got the big client, which got a big check.
Yeah.
What do I do with all this money outside of paying my bills? How do I
make that work for me?
Yeah. How do I steward this money? How do I make a good investment? How do I provide for my family in the best way? How do I? So there's so many things. I finally got the role. I finally got the job that I wanted. But now I'm managing people. So now it's just not me climbing this ladder and trying to get my way to the top. It's now I have to steward all of these other people and their roles as well, and understand that they have families that they're providing for, and they have things that they like. There's just so much that comes with answered prayers.
Yeah.
There's so much weight that comes with answered prayers. And
we talk a lot about, I think this is just like a stupid simple way to break this down. We talk a lot about seasons and planting and planting seeds and different things and harvesting. But I think for me, just in my head right now, you can take a pack of seeds or a bag of seeds and you can scatter them in the ground, and you just throw a bunch of them and a couple will pop up. Nature will do its thing. That's the easy way to go about it. Maybe not the wisest way, but laws of nature, like that will actually, some of them will come up. But the harvest, you have to pull them, you have to clean them, you have to make sure the weeds don't kill them. It requires work to get them. And then whatever you harvest, you have to cook it. You have to, so it doesn't just feed you when it's done growing. I guess you could take a bite out of it and it would, but it consistently requires work to the very end. So you can start haphazardly and throw the seeds in the ground, and that's great to plant seeds, but at some point you have to get intentional about planting them in rows and in lines and making sure that it makes sense. And as you do that and you grow, you have a larger field to harvest from, and a larger harvest comes, but it's more responsibility and more work.
Yeah. We've talked some about how entrepreneurship a lot feels like a consistent change of season of like a feast season, a famine season, a feast season, a famine season. And that's true. It can feel that way. There are things that come along with business like the marketplace, the politics, all the things that we're not going to talk about on this podcast.
A client having a bad day.
Yes, like
sending you an nasty email.
Right. Those things play into how much money people are willing to spend and how much they value your work and all of that kind of stuff. So we go through these seasons of feast and famine, but if we are actually being intentional with our planting season and with our harvest season, those seasons feel less hard in them. Like the famine season where things aren't coming up from the ground isn't going to be so hard if you have stewarded the last one well.
Right.
And so again, talking about harvesting seasons, it can just feel very biblical, and I don't want to lose anybody, but it's kind of the law of nature, like you were saying, and it plays so much into like just our world, how we act in the world, how we react with clients, how we, I don't
think it's just biblical principles. I think this is really being a good person and a productive person and contributing to society. Like even that, I think this is very just how things organically work in society.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, should we try and get back on track with our notes? We've probably already talked about everything in 17 minutes in, but I think that there's this pressure that comes with answered prayers that we don't always know is there. It can feel very weighty.
Yeah.
And if you don't really understand, if you're not fully in tune with the Spirit and what's happening in your life, it can feel overwhelming when actually it's spiritual weight. And that's not the same, because spiritual weight means God has trusted you with something. Yeah. That's not the same as overwhelm. Overwhelm means you're not managing your time well.
Pray for wisdom. Yeah. Pray for discernment. That's, because we've been there. That's not saying that out of a condescending tone. We have sat on the couch and wept and not talked to each other for hours on end and mindlessly watched TV to zone out because everything feels so overwhelming, and we weren't this is vulnerable, but we probably weren't aligned enough with the Spirit. We weren't praying about things enough. We weren't going to the right source to alleviate that and continue to grow. We were sitting in our woes and I can't figure this out, and so I'm just gonna have a pity party, and that's real talk.
Yeah, I think that when you get to that place, what you do with it though, like what you do when you feel overwhelmed will be telling of how that next season plays out for you.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel overwhelmed. We're not saying you shouldn't feel that way. Yesterday I was like, I just need to go mow the lawn because I need to like be off of my screens and whatever. I just need to like be outside, be in nature. And I think you were like, are you all right? Like, what's happening right now?
It's just the middle of the day and you're in the middle of work and you're like, I'm going to go mow. I need to do something analog. Which is fair.
I can't do anything else right now. My brain is, I'm going to overwhelm myself. So being aware of yourself, but how you act when you're overwhelmed and what you choose to do with those feelings, is going to be what sustains you in the next one, or doesn't sustain you depending on how you act, right? So when you experience breakthrough, when you finally get all the responsibilities that come with the prayers that you've prayed, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Things aren't just going to plateau. It means that God has trusted you with something, and now this is going to require work, and it's going to require sacrifice.
But along the way, learning in those hard times. So for us, going from self-pity on the couch watching Netflix and having a pity party, learning healthier ways to cope and to deal and handle those situations. It took me multiple years to replace those attitude, those feelings, those immediate responses to a situation with something healthier, with something more productive. And I'm not saying like work productive.
Mm-hmm.
I took up drawing because that was a disconnect from digital world, from the screen, and just draw on pencil and paper. And now that actually has become something that we're getting paid to do more and more is illustrating. But finding healthier ways to deal with God, I'm having a hard time. Out prayer, reading the Bible, giving it to God and trusting, that's the base. But then when you start changing your behavior, how you react in those situations, it makes it easier as those times come. Those coping mechanisms that you can use that you replace with something healthier get you to a point that when you have a huge responsibility, you're able to cope with that
Right.
much easier because you already know, all right, that isn't going to change my life. I'm not going, and we want to dig into this later, but nothing is going to steal my peace.
But I think that's it, right? In order to maintain peace, you have to plan it. And that seems counterintuitive because I think our idea of peace is that it's just like this natural state of like rest and relaxation. Unfortunately, the reality is that you have to fight for peace.
Peace is chaos, is really, in order to have peace and to know life is chaos. That's not going to stop. There is no quit everything and go weep at the feet of Jesus in 2025. Everything requires work, and I would dare to say that most preachers, most people who are encouraging people to find a place of peace, to find that, are get in the trenches with the people who are having a harder time than you.
Right.
Not, I'm going to go seclude myself with 20 other people and do this. Go do a worship set. Go do prayer room. Go do all those things. I think those are so important to prepare you for the battle of finding and fighting for peace, to find those lost souls and make an impact. But you do not get to live there. And the Bible says work, 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 work. And the work, half of the time that we do in life, is not for ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. More than half the time. I think that
Hopefully we didn't lose listeners there from saying that, but
not your wife closing her eyes going, okay, I hope his heart comes across what he's saying.
Did my heart come across?
No, I absolutely think that your heart came through in what you're saying. I think that we just get so caught up in a society of like the selfishness, right? It's just human nature. It's not anything that anyone can really even control sometimes, but
I think we all have selfish days.
We do, and we think that the things that we're praying for are for us, and in reality they're not, and we may not even realize it, but they're not. They're for the kingdom. They're for a greater purpose. Everything that we're doing is meant to serve others and is meant to serve God and the kingdom. And so when you are really digging your heels in and you're really like contending for something with God, like, hey, God, I need my situation to change. I need you to answer these prayers. I really want to encourage people to understand what you're praying for. This is not he's going to answer your prayer and you're going to be on the plateau and things are going to be easy. No, it's still a mountain that is meant to be climbed. There's not really a peak to this mountain, if we're using that metaphor, in our faith. Like, it's a consistent climb, and we're just consistently striving for what God wants for us.
Yeah.
Right? That's the goal, is we want to be so in tune with what God is doing that the things that we are praying for are actually in line with what he's calling us to do. And I had this pastor in my early 20s who consistently talked about seasons. And that doesn't mean winter, spring, summer, fall. That's not how God works. His seasons work differently than ours. But like just how to go into seasons and close seasons well. And call it seasons, chapters, whatever you want to call it. But like these points in our life where there's a clear defining moment where like where I was, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
And where I am and where I'm going is going to look very different from where I just was, where I just came from. If you've experienced healing in your life, physical, emotional, whatever, the person you are on the other side of God healing you, you're not the same person anymore. The assignment on your life is going to be different now than what it was before that.
Right.
And it's hard. It's hard to understand that. And it takes so much work. It takes so much understanding of God. And this is where I'm like, okay, people, dig into the word of God, dig into the voice of God. You better know what the voice of God sounds like in your
Yeah.
life, because you don't want to be out of step when you're in those transition seasons. Um, you don't want to lose sight of like what the goal is.
That's going to keep you going forward to make it through the season. Just that gut feeling discernment will be just enough to push you through to make it to the end of that season. And seasons come and go. Like, it will always end. Seasons of great, like, going up, rising up, all of that will plateau. And you'll have other hard times. That is going to happen in business, in life, in your, like, in everything. You're going to have that.
Yeah. I think one thing that can be really hard is when we do experience those good seasons, answered prayers, all of that. I think that we have a tendency to want to hang on to where we are. And so when things are going well, change becomes harder.
You don't just get to hold on to that high and stay there forever.
Yeah, I wish. Again, this is now you're in a different place. More is required of you, and it's not going to last. When more is required of you, then more is required of you. And then more is required of you, and you learn more, and you change, and you grow. And this is why we don't stay the same, right? As people, we learn, we evolve, we grow, we develop in our skills and our talents and our gifts and our faith. Like, it all is constantly changing, hopefully on the upswing, and so what we don't want is to see God's blessings and then try and live there forever.
Or just stay there.
Just
stay
stay in that
dormant
place.
there.
Yeah, because that's what it becomes, right? It becomes dormant. If you keep planting in the same place and expecting the harvest to be the same over and over, you actually deplete that soil of its nutrients, right? You have to
That's
move.
really good.
You have to keep going, because the place you are will not continue to feed you. It will not continue to serve you. And so you have to keep moving. And so
stewarding and striving.
Absolutely. And I would encourage people to live in that open-handed place with your blessings. That God, you gave this to me, and if you ask for it back, I'm willing to give it back to you.
Yeah.
That's really hard from human perspective. Like, it's very hard to say, if you ask for me to give this back, I'll give it back.
Yeah.
But if God is asking you to give it back, it's because he has something else for you, right? He's not going to leave you in lack. He's not going to leave you wanting.
He doesn't want you to hold on to that forever and miss what he's trying to get you to have your arms open for, your hands open for.
Yeah. Love it. Man, this is good. I just want to like sit down and have coffee with people talking about this kind of stuff, because it's so close to our heart, and it's learned experience, right? And I think even you and I sometimes are in different places with this. We are walking through a season right now where we're going, whoa, okay, God, this doesn't look anything like what I thought it would.
No.
But it's happening. And so help me. And even yesterday I was going, I don't know. I'm not going to get my hopes up here. I don't want to like expect too much or dream too much. Like, I see what God is doing, but like, I'm just going to keep waiting. And you really challenged me that like, no, we're not waiting anymore. We're living in it. And you can expect good things, and you can expect God to bless, and we're in that harvest moment right now. And
keep your hands open. Keep your hands out.
Yeah. Like, it's a lot of work, but don't stay in the last season just because he didn't answer in the way you thought he would.
Yeah.
And I'm probably really bad about that. I grew up really not expecting much from God, gave a lot to God. He always blessed. Like, I wasn't ever in lack. Like, God always blessed my family. and me as I went out on my own, and like I never needed for anything, but then I had this mindset of like, I'm not going to ask God for anything, right? Like he's already given me everything. He already died for me. I'm content, so I'm not going to ask for anything.
Right.
And that's just not how God works. Like he wants you to live in promise. He
But
wants
that's
you to
part of
ask of
stewarding.
him. It is.
Giving and doing well with what you have, but also receiving. That is part of stewarding. It's not just, okay, what I get. Like, okay, God, you know what I need, so that's enough. You have to live in it, and I'm just as bad as you. I'm maybe worse than you. I don't know, but we all have our days of, okay, God, you've given me a better life than I had growing up. Okay, this has been better than last season. All of those things. And so wanting for more can seem like greedy.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
greedy the right word?
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to be greedy with God, but I think as you walk through those seasons of growing deeper, learning deeper, having more trust in God, having more trust in you, and that works and it's more seamless, things do, I'm going to say slightly, things move a little faster when you are quick to trust God and quick to say yes to God.
Yeah.
God is quicker to hand things. Not all the time.
Yeah.
But you're quicker to say, okay, I'm going to stay in my place of peace. And when the chaos of everything, because everything is kind of chaos and you have to filter that. When the chaos starts coming and feeling overwhelming, what piece of this or pieces of this, and you touched on this earlier, are not serving what's trying to steal my peace, what's trying to steal my joy.
Yep.
And the 4 things we've prayed for our entire marriage are peace and joy and wisdom and discernment. Discernment, direction, whatever. And those are things that we pray daily. Our kids pray. And I pray over people because I feel like those things, if you can find, whoa, that might make me emotional. If you can find peace and joy and have that as a guiding light, it makes the really crappy days a little easier. It makes them bearable.
Yeah.
And you can move forward.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's shift a little bit to like the assumption being, right? The whole crux of the podcast today was like when God finally answers your prayers, right? And
The
so
overflow.
Yeah. And so how do we stay discerning, like you said, when there's overflow now, there's abundance, we're seeing the harvest, we're, all that stuff. What tends to happen, because, and we've talked about this, when you are moving with God from a place of trust, it's a relationship, right?
Yeah.
If you are trusting him, he is trusting you. If he's blessing you, that means he trusts you. And yeah, there are tests and there are things that you're going to walk through that don't make sense and all of that. But let's just assume right now that we're talking about this overflow season.
Yeah.
Where God has trusted you with something. The prayers have been answered. The dreams are realized. The relationship is there. Whatever it is that you've been praying for, you're living in it right now.
Yeah.
When God starts to trust you, people start to trust you. It's just something that happens.
That's
right?
Good.
It's just, I don't know if it's just like a spiritual thing, but like there will be something on you.
Yeah.
A mantle. I don't know the spiritual word for it, but like something where God has trusted you with something, you're accomplishing something. People in your life will see that and they will begin trusting you more. Then, from obviously, we're always going to talk about entrepreneurship here. You're running a business, you're running a ministry, you're running a whatever it is that you're over, that you're leading. Things are going to start making themselves available to you. And I think that we have experienced this, and in some areas, I think we are experiencing this right now. We are stepping into different areas of leadership in our business and in ministry. And there was a day a couple weeks ago where it was just chock full of meetings, chock full of conversations. And we got to the end of the day and we were like, what just happened? Like, we talked to so many people. People were asking our opinion about things.
Yeah.
And it really felt like open doors, right? It was a day of open doors.
Yeah.
And open windows and open everything. And we were just like, okay, God, that was a lot. My gut reaction is to say yes to everything.
Right.
Because when you've been in a place of lack, right, the human
Mm-hmm.
nature of it is to go, yes, 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 not turning that down, not turning down money, not
Right.
turning down opportunity, not turning down relationship. I'm going to say yes to everything. And I think that there are some times where God is saying, go for it.
Yep.
I'm going to cover you. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to give you capacity. Go for it.
And we've had those.
We have. And I think that what we're learning right now is that just because the door is open does
Mm-hmm.
not mean you're meant to walk through it.
Right.
I mean, I hate to get so like literal about it, but like maybe look inside first, right? Maybe if the door is open, maybe
Peek
peek
your head
around the
in.
corner a little
Yeah.
bit. Let's see who's in that room. Let's
Do a
see.
little bit of research. Just because your name is mentioned in a room and
Yes.
someone comes to you.
Yep.
Opportunity, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The right opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
TBD.
Yeah, exactly. And so just because the door is open does not mean that it's for you. I think that when doors start opening, it's a good thing. It's good for your name. It's good for your reputation. It means that people trust you. So it's a good thing to be the type of person that God and people trust.
Yeah.
That's a good place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can steward it all well and do it in a healthy way, I think that it's really going to benefit you in the future
Yeah.
to have been able to look at all of the opportunities in front of you and choose the best ones.
Yep.
Do your research, I think, was a really good point, because
Yeah.
you really want to know if I'm walking into an opportunity. I think it's important to just like go in and say, hey, I'm not giving you my yes yet, but I'm talking in relation with people, not God. If an opportunity arises and someone's like, hey, I would love for you to be involved in this thing, I think it's wisdom to say, let's hear about it. Not yes.
That's so important right there is
Mm-hmm.
ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just go snoop on their social media. Don't just look at their
Right.
business. Don't look at their ministry, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ask specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow in an entrepreneur, you're going to know the questions that you want to know that are the red flags with anybody. You're going to find those. You're going to know those. It's going to be naturally rolling off of your tongue. If you're having a text message conversation, send a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
See how they reply.
Yeah.
Send an email. See how they reply. Ask the question. If you ask people questions off the cuff in the midst of a conversation or a phone call or a Zoom, and they don't know intricate details, run.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't seem like they have it all together, you can say, hey, I would love to partner with you on this, but I would really like for you to focus on getting this and come back with this information for me so I can make the best decision, so that I can be the best partner for you to move you forward. Make it about them. Don't be disparaging. Make it about them and help them in that conversation, because maybe they're not trying to be vague. Maybe they're not trying to be secretive or whatever, but you get a little bit of a peek into how is that relationship going to be working together.
Yeah. And then you can say, does that relationship actually serve my purpose right now?
Right.
Because again, if you're being entrusted with something from God, from people, there needs to be a clear path. There needs to be a clear goal of this is who I'm called to be in this season. If what is through that door does not align with who that calling is for and what that calling is that's placed on you, then just don't do it. Don't even question whether you should do it or not. If it's not in step with God's purpose, don't do it. Just because it's an opportunity does not mean it is the right opportunity. However, are we about to say the same thing?
Probably.
Don't shut the door. If the door is meant to be shut, let God shut it.
Either leave it open or pray about it.
Yeah.
And it may be something that you don't want to do, but God has opened that door because you're supposed to be the light for that person to see their next season.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways that it could go. If it's not right now, it could be for whatever your next season is. That door might still be open, and now you're ready to partner together, or now you're ready for that next step of ministry, or whatever that looks like. But don't close doors that God has opened for you. Let him be the one that closes them. But be discerning in those moments of like, whoa, I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling capable. I'm feeling like God trusts me. Oh my gosh. Like, it can be such a happy, peaceful place to live,
Mm-hmm.
but like, let's not lose our discernment in that moment of like, you have this sticker I just thought of, like, be wary, not weary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be wary, be
Yeah.
aware of what is happening, be very discerning, and you're going to need more discernment. The
Yeah.
more trust God gives you, you're going to need more discernment in relationships and in clients and like in business. And you're going to have to really, really nail down your discernment in those seasons for like, is this what God wants for me right now?
Is this supposed to be a client, or is this an opportunity for me to be a light and a mentor for this person?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's greater purpose
Yeah.
to a phone call than you realize.
Yes. And I think, again, coming back to like the piece of it all, let that be the proof of what you're doing. If there's not peace going into something, if there's not peace going into, you might not even want to do something.
Right.
God wants you to do it. There will be peace even if you don't want to do it. Like, so if the thing you're like searching out is bringing chaos, destruction, and confusion, it's not from God. Walk the other way. Let Him close the door. Let peace be the proof that you're doing the right thing.
That's really good. Finding your place of peace, going in and out of every season with that peace, knowing what distractions are and what your guiding light is. Obviously, prayer, being in the Word, those are important things. But as a business owner, even that can be really hard to, as you're in the flow of things, it can be really hard to discern what. Sometimes we just don't give enough thought as a business owner to, am I supposed to do this? Am I not supposed to do it? It's like, well, this just becomes like routine task and I'm going to keep going forward, and I do it. And we've taken on clients that weren't the right client because it was being routine. So structure your thinking, structure your process so that you know how to manage and how to say, I can take you on as a client. I can take you on as a customer, but not for 4 weeks. Start to know when overflow comes, maybe you aren't able to deliver as quickly as you can and you're going to have to adjust.
Yeah.
And so you have to have systems in place. You have to have schedules in place that you are able to manage these. We are in the midst of having to implement some new
Task management. Yeah.
communicate, just different things so that we can stay on, because the number of tasks is not manageable.
Well, it was different when it was just you and I and our family calendar, but now we have people and expectations and other things, that we have to manage. And so we can't, and again, this kind of goes into like before, we can't live and work in the systems from
That worked
before.
last season.
We have to now create new systems. Yeah.
And building boundaries with clients, with employees, with coworkers, whatever that is. Building boundaries with family, like you have to, in order to have peace, you have to have boundaries, and that does not mean put up walls, don't talk. What that means is, for me, just practically, let's go there. I do not have as like office hours or available hours outside of 8 to 6. 8 to 6 Eastern, those are my hours. And outside of that, I'm not available because I need the downtime.
You'll probably see the email, but you're not going to respond to it until tomorrow.
The email, the text message. My family, my wife, my kids, my passions for cooking dinner. I love to cook. I wouldn't be able to do that, and I haven't been able to do that in seasons because I was working until 9 o'clock at night. That doesn't mean that I don't do work at night sometimes, but I'm inaccessible to people. In Saturdays, family day, Sundays, church day. Like having those things in place, a day of rest and a day of family, it helps us to stay in a place of peace all the time, even when it's a really freaking hard week.
Yeah.
We can get back and reset to that peace before things go into utter chaos.
Yeah. And when you have good systems in place, I mean, just because we're in it, but like whether that's task management, a good calendar, like whatever that looks like for you, for your family. If you're married, make sure that they're on it with you, because you guys want to stay in sync as things begin to grow. You want to constantly stay in step with one another.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have things set up that way, it's easier to understand what is taking up too much time, what is serving you, what's no longer serving you, what things can I push pause on, what things can I delegate to someone else. It just becomes easier if you have a good system in place.
Absolutely.
I think we've kind of run the gamut on everything here. Like, I can't imagine there's much more to say.
I was just looking back at our notes, and this is probably the most that we have not followed our note structure.
I know. Because it's easy to talk about something you're living.
But it is easy to talk about it, and even looking down a few times, and I just don't feel like that's relevant, because I do feel like there was discernment and direct the conversation in this way.
Yeah.
And you direct it in that way. And that honestly comes down to good communication and being open and talking regularly. Do not talk to your spouse about everything work. We do, because we work together, but we also have started putting some really healthy boundaries of, nope, not anymore today. Well, and I'm done.
I think I kind of got to the place too where if you would start to say something to me, I'd be like, is this about work? Because, and just let you know, I don't have it right now. I can't. And in the past, I would have been afraid of hurting your feelings, because I obviously want you to be proud of the work you're doing. And I want you to know that I'm proud of the work you're doing. But right now,
can you tell me tomorrow?
We're so busy. I'm like, I can't, I don't have it. I might have it in an hour. I might come back to you and ask you about it, but I don't have it in this moment.
We used to talk about every project, and now I don't even know that you know half the stuff that I send out to clients, and it just has to be that way. Yeah. And it's a shift in how we've always done things, because we're in a new season. And so I want that to just encourage people that your seasons will change. Your capacity will change. These are all good things, but the way that you've always done it is probably going to need to be altered and pivoted a little bit to continue to find that place of peace. We beat that like a dead horse in life, because everything will try and steal your peace. Yeah. And you can't let it have that. Absolutely
not. I think what I would want to close and encourage people on is that answered prayers are a new assignment. This is not, I said it earlier, once you've experienced an answer to prayer, you're not the same person anymore. You won't walk and talk and live and act the way that you did before. You have renewed faith, you have renewed vision, you have new goals, you have new tasks, you have, so don't expect for things to be the same. And if you revert back to how things were, if you stay in that mindset of, oh God, please answer my prayers, and you never realize that he's consistently answering prayers. Right. He's never not, yes, God says no sometimes. Yeah. So then, that's kind of another conversation of get in step with the will of God. If he's saying no to your prayers, maybe you need to pray something different. Yeah. Prayer is communication. And so if we are consistently communicating with God our Father, and we are in step with what he has for our life and what the vision is that he has for us and what our purpose is, you're going to leave each season different. You're going to, on the other side of those things, you're going to be different. He's going to remove distractions you didn't know were distractions, and he's going to give you focus where you need it, and you will continue to become a better person, a more faithful person, but people are going to start looking up to you. People are going to start asking you for advice, for leadership, for mentorship, and that alone is one of the heaviest weights of any of this. Absolutely. Clients come in with bigger projects, no problem. Somebody asking for marriage advice or life advice, or will you pray with, those are big assignments. Those are heavy, heavy things. Yeah, because you never want to, just because we're living our life a specific way and we're we're in tune with what God is doing right now, it doesn't mean that that's for everyone. And I just want to be really careful with how we approach people with our prayers and with what God is asking of them. And I don't want to pray the wrong thing. I know, I don't want to pray the wrong thing, or Oh gosh, if you're requiring from them what you've required of me, like I don't want to tell them how hard this is going to be. But I also
Buckle up.
think like carry these things with care. This is so whether you're in ministry, you're in entrepreneurship, if you really are running with God, you know, the whole name of the podcast is Creative Saints, right? And somebody recently was asking what that is, and we haven't really talked about it in a minute, but the whole point of the name is like, for us, our work is creative, so that's obviously, and then saints is just like the idea of like running our life, a person who cares about what God cares about.
Yeah.
We want our decisions, not just in life, not just in creativity, not just in ministry, but in every aspect of running a business, raising a family. We want it to be in step with the Holy Spirit. And even in our work, even in creating processes and structures, I believe that God is a creative and that he wants to do things in new and exciting ways. And I want him to use us in the process.
We want that light and that positivity to not have to be said, but people when they're around us to feel that, because we are truly and genuinely living life like that.
I think that another thing that I would want to kind of as a takeaway is like, you know, we talked about the overflow and like how you might have to get rid of some things, but there is a place of overflow that you can live.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I think it just requires that structure and that really putting the work in to like make sure it's all in step with God and live in the overflow. Absolutely. I think that there are seasons where God's promises are being fulfilled and you get to enjoy the fruit of your labor. You get to really live in that and see his abundance in everything that you're doing. And so I don't want people to think that like just because their plate is full, they need to like reassess or realign or anything.
Right.
But I think a full plate, just make sure, right? Again, discernment. Use your discernment, use your judgment, and make sure that the things that you're carrying are from God.
Yeah. The overflow is a place you can live, but you're going to be required more. But once you get to there's a little breakdown there of like the overflow. We're not talking financially.
Sure. No.
Like this is way bigger than finances. So hopefully that was made clear early on, but
I don't know if it was.
Maybe it wasn't. But the overflow is a place of you live in peace. You have trust and faith that God is going to bring the clients. God is going to guide your steps. God is going to provide for your family. God is going to do all of these things. And you have that just inherent peace and trust and faith in God. When you get there, that's the overflow, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Everything else is seasons, ups and downs, ebbs and flows of business, of life, of everything in the overflow. But you can do it with more grace. You can do it with more peace, and you can do it with greater impact.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we talked so long about this. We could continue talking about it. If I'm being honest, our kids are kind of losing it in the background right now. So we're going to go parent and handle that. That's just real talk. We are raising a family and recording a podcast at the same time. So
this is the 16th episode. That means that we've been doing this for like 4 months. I don't feel like that can be real.
I know.
I'm going to look at the dates, but
we are so excited you guys are here. We want you to experience overflow in your life. We want you to experience the promises of God in your work, in your relationships, and we want to hear about it. So DM us. If you have our number, text us, email us, go to the website, reach out somehow. We want to know what God is doing in your life and how we can partner with you or pray for you.
Prayer for things. Hit us up.
Yeah, we're really good at praying for hard things. Been there, done that. So, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening. Have an amazing week. And we'll see you next week.
See you next time.